Okay, if you didn't get enough options thrown at you in the last couple of lessons, here comes some more. We're going to look at some of the display settings you have control over, and then some of the document settings like how you save, print, and even store a default page layout. So we don't really need to have anything on our screen at this point, but we are going to go up to the Office button up here and then click on Word Options. Okay, so we came here earlier, but we're going to go to the display options now by clicking display on the left hand side and just look at some of the display settings that are set up here. We looked at some of these in earlier lessons, but right here, page display options, you'll see that white space will be shown in between pages in our print layout view. Now, if we turn that off, the print layout view is just going to show the text flowing from one page into the next with a simple line in between the two. The highlighter we talked about in an earlier lesson where we start highlighting text in yellow or purple or whatever color you like, those highlighter marks will show up on our page, but if we turn this off, we won't see them. Show document tooltips on hover. So those little tooltips that pop up when you hover over buttons and areas of your text, those tooltips can be turned off if you want by deselecting this checkbox. We already talked about the formatting marks in an earlier lesson, but if you wanted to see how many tabs were showing up on a document in between text, you can show tab characters, you can show spaces, paragraph marks, or in other words where the enter key was hit in a document, hidden text, hyphens, anchors, and so on. If you want them all shown, you just click this one box down below. We don't want those shown, but we'll go down to our printing options, and you can see that drawings like graphics and so on in a Word document do print, but background colors and images, document properties, hidden text, they don't print. Not by default, that is. So if you wanted to, for example, to have the document properties printed on every copy that you print out, you would select it here rather than in the document for that one single document. Remember, we're setting up default settings here. We could set them up for individual documents as we're working on those documents, but any changes we make here will apply to all documents. Let's take a look at some of the save options now. We'll click Save over here on the left, and you can see that files are saved in this format, which is the new Word 2007 format, the extension DOCX, DocX. If we wanted to save to a different format by default, rather than again setting it for every single document, we can choose from a number of different formats here. The most common one might be this older version, Word 97 2003 document format, if you're going to be sharing a lot of documents with people who don't have Word 2007. We'll leave it at DocX. There is an auto recover save that happens every 10 minutes by default, so if the power were to go out and you were working on your document, you could probably get back most of it except for the last 10 minutes maximum in this case, but we can change that number from 1 to 120 or 2 hours. Auto recover file location, so you can see where these auto recovered documents are being stored. And the default file location is in the Documents folder under my name here. So you can choose a different default location by using the Browse buttons. Offline editing options for document management server files. If you're working on a document management system and you're sharing files that are stored on a server, you can do some offline editing. Here are the options you can set up here. And there's preserve fidelity when sharing this document. We saw this earlier. One neat option though is embedding fonts in the file. So if you were sharing a document and you've used some fancy fonts that maybe the person you're sending it to doesn't have, then there's some font replacement that goes on and their document won't look exactly the way it does when you look at it using the proper font. So an option is to actually send the fonts along with the document and embed those fonts right in the file. I'm going to turn that back off. Alright, let's click OK. Go back to our document. What we're going to do now is look at how you can set up a default page layout for the documents you create from now on. So we could and probably should do this the next time we create an actual document, just to be lazy and save some time, but I want to show this to you now, so we'll use a blank document for this. If you don't have a blank document on your screen already, just go up to the Office button, click New, and choose Blank Document. You'll have what I have on the screen. Alright, I want you to think of a scenario, and this is a typical scenario where you might want to change the default layout for your pages. If you find that your documents consistently use a different layout than the default you get with Word, which is, for example, a 1-inch margin all the way around on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, no problem, you just change the default. So what we're going to do is go up to the Page Layout tab and make some changes to this blank document. Under page layout, we can change things like margins, for example. Let's go over here and change our margins. We'll go to this one here called narrow. The other thing we can do is just change the size of our page. Let's say we use legal all the time. We work in a legal office. And we'll leave the orientation and that kind of stuff as is. Now, maybe this is the format we use most often, and we'd like to make it our default. Well, no problem. We can actually just click the default button to make this happen. The default button is found in the Page Setup dialog box. So we'll go up here to the dialog box launcher under Page Setup, give it a click. And all of our settings are in here, 8.5 by 14. You can see that's our legal selection. There's our margins. And all we do is go down here to the bottom left corner, click on the default button, and we will get a warning. Do you want to change the default settings for page setup? The change will affect all new documents based on the normal template that we use. So when we click yes, we're left with our new document, but let's just go and close that without saving it. So we'll go up to the Office button, click Close, and say No, and create a new blank document. We'll go up to our Office button, click New. Blank document is selected. Remember, this is based on the normal template. When we click Create, look what we get. We get those margins at 1/2 inch. And if I scroll down, you'll see that I'm using a legal piece of paper here, a 14-inch long page. So that's our new default. Very cool. That'll save us some time from now on. Now, the last group of modifications I'd like to look at is with regard to changing your toolbars and keyboard options. That is coming up next.